So next, in the spirit of guys are welcome now, I welcome Fergie Miller of Bizify.
Actually, can you hear me at the back? Yeah, I'm going to go down the mic. Thanks, Maya. It's great to be here. Those prizes look pretty good. I urge you all to go out and grab them. I wish I had them when I was starting off with my startup. I started my... I'm from the UK. I started my first business while I was at university. It was a ski business. And grew that to 7 countries before exiting a couple of years ago. And then moved over to Asia. I co-founded and run the Lean Startup Circle here in Singapore, which is one of the reasons I got invited this evening. And I'm going to talk to you a bit about Lean methodology. But the Lean Startup Circle is a monthly meetup. And our next meetup is on Monday the 11th, I think. And we're actually live broadcasting the San Francisco conference over 6 hours. It's running all day. So I'd urge any of you who are here today to come along. That should be a really great day and hear from some of the great speakers in startups. And I'm over in Singapore at the moment. I'm launching a startup called Bizify. We're trying to make the workplace a bit more fun. We think work is way too boring, and we're using gamification or a bit of game theory to do that. So yeah, that's been a great journey. But in choosing to set up my first business at university, I chose not to do graduate training. So I just wanted to see a show of hands who here has gone straight into starting up a business and not gone down the corporate route. Any hands? Okay, great. We've got a couple of you. So you might be able to share a bit of my experience. I'm pretty envious of a lot of my contemporaries who went down the corporate route. All that knowledge and experience and expertise that they learned from their graduate training from large companies was something that I never got an opportunity to do. What I chose instead was a career path where I learned through doing. And anyone who's in small business or in startups or regards himself as an entrepreneur will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Learning through... Thanks, Gina. Learning through doing is one of the hardest things, and it's something that's absolutely key to getting a startup right. And it's hopefully something that you'll get a great opportunity to do this weekend. So I just wanted to share with you some of my experiences, and hopefully you'll be able to get a bit of an insight into what working on a startup means. And the first point I want to make is a point about passion. You cannot be in startups if you're not passionate about what you're doing. Your passion will get you through the hardest times. It'll make all the stress worthwhile. It'll bring you back from the brink when you think everything is lost. Passion is everything in small businesses, and you've got to have complete conviction and passion in what you're doing. That is the most important thing, and if you take anything away from this weekend, it's to have passion in what you do at work. It's also a pretty good way to live as well, by the way. But passion can get you into trouble sometimes. You can end up making decisions purely on emotion, without any rational argument. There have been examples of companies spend 3 years launching a product, only to find that no one is interested in the product, or the market's moved on, or both, or they were never anywhere near it to start with. And yeah, passion can, what I'm trying to say is that passion, as well as being the greatest thing, can also be your enemy. So what I want to talk a bit, in being asked to talk about Lean, is explain to you a bit about what Lean is, and how Lean helps you guide your passion, and gives you a bit of a scientific approach to how you can conduct your business, and just keep you on track, making sure that you work efficiently, making sure that you're getting to the next stage as quickly as possible and enhancing that passion. Being lean is kind of what it says on the tin, but there's far more to it as well. Doing only what you need to get to the next stage, making sure that you're smart in the way that you run your business and spend your time, making sure that you're speaking to customers right from the start, so that you're actually developing what your customers want rather than what you think they want. It's all about what lean is. And working like this will actually give you a competitive advantage. Being agile, being nimble, having low overheads, being able to react fast are some of the key attributes that you'll have and key advantages that you'll have over your competitors as a startup. Because they've got a whole long list that they've got over you. So working like this not only helps to enhance your passion, but actually gives you a great way to run your business. And if you're trying to disrupt a mature market or an established market, is one of the pillars of your strategy. So I just want to run through a couple of examples of lean, and you'll probably hear these a bit during the weekend, particularly from the mentors. And the first one is what's called minimal viable product, or MVP. A minimal viable product is developing what you need to get to the next stage. No less and no more. So let me give you an example, rather than the example I referred to about spending 3 years developing a product. If you want to know that people are interested in your idea, you don't have to go and do a 1,000-page research white paper. You don't have to go and interview hundreds of customers. All you could do is put up one page of HTML code on a website with a picture, some text, and a call to action button, and see how many people visit your site and how many people click on the call to action button. Anyone here can get that up in 10 minutes, in half an hour, in an hour, and immediately know whether your idea has got legs. You can also see how much legs it's got, and if you collect the email addresses from the call to action button, you start getting data of people who are interested in your product and who will be your biggest fans and your early adopters. So minimal viable product is absolutely essential and a great way of being fast and being agile. The next concept of lean that I want to talk about is pivoting. So quite often you'll find that you've decided to test a hypothesis, or you've got an idea and you think it's a great idea, and you go out and you test it, and you come to the end of the road and you realize that it's not a great idea after all. What do you do? Now, in trying to get a startup off the ground, you're trying to find a solution to a problem for a particular demographic or client base. And you've just done all this work in testing your idea, which you don't want to throw away. So what pivoting is changing one of those three elements. Changing your solution, changing your problem, or changing your client base. And getting rid of all the work that isn't relevant and taking all the quality work that you've done that is relevant. So let me give you an example. I think that restaurants and queuing for restaurants is a nightmare. There's a huge problem there. And so I've got my hypothesis, I go out and test it, and I realize that actually restaurants like people queuing. It creates aspiration. People go to restaurants with large queues. So I've reached my dead end. My hypothesis is broken. But instead of chucking it all away, it's actually helped me get nearer to the actual problem. And that in this example, the problem isn't the fact that restaurants have queues, it's that people aren't entertained while they're queuing. So instead of trying to solve a queuing problem now, I'm trying to solve an entertainment problem. And maybe do that in a way that benefits the restaurants. So that's what I mean about pivoting and working smart. The last point I want to talk about in regard to lean is customer development. People spend so much time trying to work out what customers want and what their problems are. And customers are everywhere. They're sitting right next door to you now. Instead of trying to work it out, why don't you just go and ask them? You've got so many tools these days that are all free that you can start using within minutes. You've got Facebook groups, you've got Twitter, you've got Google Sites, you've got Google Docs, you've got email, you can get out of the building and start speaking to them on the street. You've got all these tools that you can instantly use to find out what your customers want. And learning what your customers want right from the start, finding out who your biggest fans are, and growing your business through them like a ripple effect is a great way to build a business from the bottom up, and a really smart way of getting a startup going. The last point I want to talk about is failure. Excuse me. There's a lot of stigma around failure. There's loss of face, there's loss of materialism, loss of money. But failure is actually the best way you can learn. And I'm speaking from personal experience here. When you're learning through doing, you're not going to learn anything unless you fail. I was watching a podcast from, this was a year or two back, it was on TechCrunch on YouTube, on iTunes, which is a great resource of information for any of you who are interested. And Chris Dixon, one of the founders of podcast, made a point that's still stuck with me to this day. If you're not getting rejected every day, you're not trying hard enough. How do you know where your boundaries are, where your horizons are, unless you test them? How do you know what you're capable of? How can you work at full speed? How can you be as fast as you can? How can you live the best life that you can if you don't know where your boundaries are? How can you push them back? How can you grow as a person? So failure is absolutely key to that. And failure there's nothing to be ashamed about with failure. There's everything to be ashamed about for not trying. The lucky thing for you guys is you've got a whole weekend to test out and explore all of these things with no downside. You're here for yourselves, you're here to learn, you're here to grow, you're here to come up with some great businesses. And I can say that having been in startups my whole life, I did spend 6 months working for someone else and that didn't go very well. It's the best job, and anyone in startups will agree, it's the best job you can have. It's the best way you can live your life. So I wish you every success this weekend. Go out, enjoy it, and go and grow it. Thank you.